filing cabinet here. I'm old school. I don't type anything in. It's all written down. Okay. Well, I'm really excited to be with all of you. Something different's going to happen today. You're going to see two people walk in. It's Laura Mayor. She's amazing. She's our communications director at the city. She's being job shadowed by Avery, who is a high school student, I believe, at Harlem. So you guys can give him a bunch of grief. Okay. It's been since August, I believe, since I was here last. So a couple of things have happened. So I am going to try to, as I do, give you a roundabout tour of what's taking place in the city. And then anytime you have questions while I'm speaking, just yell at me, raise your hand, whatever you feel comfortable. And then at the end, we can also take questions about anything that you would like to discuss. Okay. So since August, there's been quite a bit that has taken place. So I will try to recall as much of it as I can. We'll start with finances as we normally do. So the city of Rockford passed our budget in early November, mid-November, and by state law, we have to pass, all municipalities have to pass their budget by March 31st of the existing year. So we actually, if we didn't pass it, we'd still have a little bit of time. Every year that I've been mayor, that's never made sense to me that you would pass a budget in the existing year 3 months into your year. So I will be upfront and tell you, and I got elected in 2017, so we did approve our budget for 2018. It was a couple weeks into 2018. I was like, we should never do that again. So we have worked really hard on our finances, and we approved it in November. In that budget, there's a couple of things that I think you should know. Yep, this is Laura Mayor. Yep. This is Avery, our job shadow today of Flora. Laura loves all the attention. So in our budget, it wasn't too drastically different than last year's budget. In that budget, we did not increase property taxes for the 8th year in a row. One thing I will tell you I'm very proud of is we are the first administration in nearly 70 years to not increase property taxes over an 8-year period. So, couple of things in that budget. I'll just touch on one big thing that I think is important. So, City of Rockford's the largest funder outside of the state of Illinois for the Rockford Mass Transit District. So for all of our public transportation buses, we are the largest funder. In that, something that you should know, every dollar we give to RMTD, they get $1.85 from the state of Illinois as a match. So it's an incredible investment. The first several years, truthfully, we were not in a financial position to put more money into RMTD. Over the last, since 2022, we have put a little bit more money into RMTD. In doing so, RMTD's director, his name's Michael Stubby, I think he's done a really wonderful job. He's really good at listening to residents, adjusting schedules for large employers, and he's really worked well with us in requesting additional funds. I mean, he's like every RMTD director, they're always asking for more money, but he brings it to us in a way that makes a lot more sense than I think previous folks have, and that not knocking anyone previous. So one thing that we talked to him about is, hey, if we're going to give more money, what are we going to get from that? What specific services? So back in 2022, when we first provided more funding, we wanted to make sure that veterans who served our country were able to ride our buses for free. So we were able to do that. Then we said, how about kids? A lot of parents are on the bus, and these kids who are K through 12th grade, they're going to school, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. We want them to ride the buses for free too. So then K through 12 could ride the buses for free. Then February 1st of this year, we started saying anyone who's going to get their GED or their high school diploma can also ride our buses for free. Then we said, anyone who is going to improve themselves further with education, such as going to college, Rasmussen College, Rockford Career College, Rockford University, Rock Valley College, you too can ride our buses for free. Our whole thought process is, we don't want to be impediments to someone wanting to improve themselves. And we know that transportation is one of their biggest barriers that they have to going and furthering themselves. Our thought process is pretty simple. If you're trying to improve yourself, you're going to improve your family. If you're improving your family, you're certainly improving our community, and we want to be part of that, not an impediment to it. A couple of other things that I think is worthy of noting. Through not increasing property taxes, through investments in neighborhoods, and a little bit of luck with our market, our property tax rate has decreased by more than 37%. So this is important to know. I can't take full credit for it. We can take partial credit for it. So two things to know. When I first got elected, our collective property tax rate was 15.5%. It was the highest in the state of Illinois. Today, it's 10.26%. Now, just for the city of Rockford, we were 3.36% when I first got elected. I think it was 3.36 or 3.46. Now, it'll be in 2025, it'll be under 2% for the first time since 1984. So I think we're moving in the right direction. We're seeing property values have increased nearly 60%. And for most Rockfordians, that is their largest investment that they have. So we are trying to help them build wealth in their properties. And I will tell you one thing that's also been important to us is we're not just building wealth in properties on one side of town, we're doing it throughout the entire community. So I'm going to touch on some of the stuff that I think has been a benefit in those neighborhoods. And you've heard me say this, but we revamped the trustee program, so that all those blighted properties and vacant lots, we've revamped that program, and we are actually getting those properties, instead of not paying taxes, now they're being sold and being productive, paying property taxes and getting rehabilitated. One of the programs that we helped with that rehabilitation is a land bank. Another one is a community development financial institution, a CDFI. Both, by the way, Rockford did not have when I got elected in 2017. So the community development financial institution is important. We provide low interest loans to local contractors, because these local contractors have all the skills to rehab the homes. They just don't have the $60,000, $80,000 to purchase that property. So we provide a low interest loan. They make an agreement that they will rehab that property, and we urge them strongly to make it a single family owner-occupied resident. They don't have to, but they've now done over 200 of those properties, and more than 170 of them are single-family owner-occupied residents. And so these are those properties in all of our neighborhoods that we're aware of, that's the property that's dragging down your property values. That's the one that you're like, man, I just wish Susan would take care of that, or Jim would take care of that property, whoever owns it. Or something happened in their family and it's run down. And so that's why it's so critical to be investing in that community development financial institution. Other thing that is also important when we're talking neighborhoods as well as the city at large is infrastructure. And I'm going to get this out because you're going to ask me about it. At Elmwood and Rockton Turn, so our team has met with the state. They control that lighting system, and we're asking for additional time when you make that left-hand turn. We can't get, I believe you want another turn lane, we can't get that, we don't believe, but we can extend the time period for the left-hand turn so that you'll be able to get out easier there. Felt very proud of myself to remember that. So infrastructure, this summer alone, in October or November, we approved our capital improvement plan. And it was our largest in city history, about $340 million. This summer alone, you're going to see more than $70 million worth of road work taking place on our city streets. So I want to touch on a couple of these projects. I have a little cheat sheet for that. Okay, Alpine Road, from Brookview Road to Highcrest. We own that portion, that'll be resurfaced. And this is all this summer. Mulford, Fincham Drive to Guilford, and Gale Lane to Churchview will be resurfaced. West Riverside Boulevard, Rockton Avenue to Latham Street, and Central Avenue to Packard Parkway will be resurfaced. Spring Creek, from Welsh Road to Mulford Road will be resurfaced. 3 other projects I want to touch on. School Street, that phase 2 will be completed this summer. Also, probably the 2 that I'm most excited about, one is Auburn Street. From Latham, pretty much the roundabout, just a little bit west of the roundabout, about a half block. So Latham all the way to Springfield will be totally reconstructed. You're gonna have new streetlights. You'll have a replaced 100-year-old water main. You'll have replaced several hundred lead service lines to those homes and businesses. You will have a multi-use path. You will have a new sidewalk and obviously a new road. This is really important. If you just drive down Auburn Street today, you will quickly find out that most people are walking in the street, not because they want to, but because their sidewalk immediately abuts the street. And anytime a plow goes down, it's impossible for us not to plow all the snow onto that sidewalk. And then it ices over, and then no one can walk on it, and we all say, why are these people walking in the street? That's why. And so that'll no longer be the case. Then 11th Street. 11th Street will be totally reconstructed. Auburn's gonna be all done in one summer, this summer. 11th, and I'll grab you in one second. 11th Street will be reconstructed over 2 summers. So 11th Street's gonna be from Harrison to 18th Avenue initially. Again, multi-use path, new water main, new lighting, new sidewalk. Yes?
Auburn Street.
Yes.
Is it gonna be cut down to 1 lane in each direction?
Yeah, thank you. It will. So if you look at Auburn Street and 11th Street, both will be cut down from 4-lane road to a 3-lane road. You'll have 1 lane each direction with a turn lane. So we gotta talk about this. Why are we doing this? For lots of reasons. Number one, if you look at the pedestrian deaths that have taken place in Rockford, a number of them are on Auburn and on 11th Street. Number two, you look at the amount of speeding that is taking place in our community. I would say every street, but also on those 2 streets specifically, we need to make some adjustments. And so on speeding and traffic enforcement, we're doing 2 things. One is infrastructure changes, and I want to talk a little bit if you compare Auburn to what we did on Broadway. So Broadway's average daily traffic is 13,500 vehicles, okay? Auburn Street, from the roundabout to Huffman Boulevard, is 13,000. From Huffman Boulevard to Central is about 10,000. From Central to Springfield is about 6,000. So we've done this before, and it really worked. On Broadway, we saw a 7-mile-per-hour to an 11-mile-per-hour reduction in speeds. And we also saw a 44% reduction in accidents. So we are doing that on Auburn, and we are doing that on 11th Street. I do want to touch on the traffic enforcement because it's really important. Again, I think I have a cheat sheet. So we have increased dramatically the amount of citations and enforcement we're doing on city streets. In 2023, we had 8,800 roughly traffic citations. In 2024, we purchased radar detection for all of our squad cars. Before it was only in about 2 to 4 of them, front and rear automatic radar detection. So slow down. Number one. Number two, with this purchase, we have increased traffic citations up to 11,000 traffic citations. So just about 32.4% increase. I will also tell you, because someone will think it or ask it, we don't make almost any money on these. So it's not something that we are doing for revenue. Almost all of that money goes to the county. I think literally we get like $2 to $4 per citation. It is nothing, it doesn't cover our costs, I'll promise you that. So we're doing that, and then the last thing I'll touch on the capital improvement plan are neighborhood streets. This is pretty exciting. We are going to nearly double the amount of money that are going into neighborhood streets this summer. So on average, an alderman gets about $320,000 to improve their neighborhood streets. Some aldermen get a little bit more, no one gets less, but some get a little bit more. Like when I was alderman of the 3rd Ward, I got a little bit more. I thought it was because I was special, it isn't. It's because we had alleys. And like the 4th Ward where Kevin Frost is, he has no alleys, so he gets the 320 and we get a little bit more. So we are going to give, this year, all aldermen are going to get about $550,000. And then we have a plan to ensure that by 2028, every alderman gets $500,000 moving forward. And so I think you will see a lot of improvements on our neighborhood streets over the next 3 to 5 years, as well as major corridors. Any questions on infrastructure? Yeah.
City View to Eagle, from Rockland to Riverside.
Repeat the first part of that.
It's City View to Eagle, so it's going east from Riverside.
Okay.
And south to, east from Rockland and south to Riverside.
Okay.
And that's like a washboard.
City View. Okay. Any other infrastructure? Yes.
I don't know if it's infrastructure or not, but the internet access, Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
that's making good progress, right?
It is. Thank you for saying that. Okay, so we approved a development agreement with a company called Sci-Fi. We've talked about it here before. It's about a $225 million agreement of all private money. Sci-Fi is a group that we chose because truthfully, there's multiple other groups. There's another group in town called I3 that's putting in fiber. Great company, have no real qualms with them. I wish their restoration was a little bit better, but their service is great. The issue and why we chose Sci-Fi, I think, is also important. I3 wanted us to do an agreement with them. We chose not to and went with Sci-Fi, and why it is important. And not knocking I3, but I3 is picking and choosing where they're laying their fiber optic cable. So you can guess where they're going to pick to lay their fiber optic cable. Sci-Fi made an agreement with us that they will do the entire city. It was a 5-year construction process. We're through full 2 years and into year 3. We're more than 40% through that construction. This they say late spring, I'll say early summer to make sure I'm covered. They will start what they say lighting up different areas, and then they'll continue to light them up. So they've been on the west and on the east. This is important for our residents. So do you guys pay your own Comcast here, or is it part of your package? Anyone here work for Comcast? Has your bill went up or down? Okay, well, if it went down, you're doing something I'm not. So this is really important. So I literally was just at Rockford Housing Authority scattered sites yesterday, and a gentleman, Coranda, said that he was paying over $140 just for internet. I forget the gig speed that he had. That's all way over my head. But he said he has higher speeds with I3, and he is paying $50. And so for us, I mean, I can't do a whole lot for your inflation, right? But one thing that we can do is bring more competition in that'll help put more money back into your pockets. And that is one big thing that we are working towards. They have, Sci-Fi has teamed up with the company T-Mobile. They call it T-Fiber. And so you will start getting mailers, if you haven't already, about T-Fiber coming to your area. It's a legit thing. They are coming. I just started getting my first mailers about 4 weeks ago. They're not quite in my neighborhood, so they send them a little bit early, but it is really between about $30 and about $65 for like the best internet, which is far less than what me and Sarah are paying for sure. Any other infrastructure? Okay, yeah.
Riverside, when will it start? Will it be 2 lanes on the side all the way?
So our portion of Riverside that we are resurfacing, nothing will change. We're just gonna get a better road. And that is, again, from Rockton to Latham and Central to Packard. The worst parts of Riverside are really from the bridge all the way out. That is a mixture between the county, the township, and Loves Park. I will tell you, it makes it really easy to do. I will tell you, I am part of Region 1 Planning Council, and I chair the North Council of Governments, which is made up of all these government bodies, about 17 of them. And we have been allocating funding to help Loves Park and the county pay for their portion now for several years. I think they have one more, I think the last time I looked, I don't know this as well, they need somewhere between like 3 and 5 million to finish it, but it was like a 14 or 16 million dollar project if my memory's correct. So they are really close. It's a high priority for them. It's their highest priority for a collective government group. Any other infrastructure? Yeah.
I have a general question. How's it paid for? How much of it is state and city and federal? You know, we hear the federal cuts and then they get backed off. Should we be worried? What's the impact? What's your opinion? You can show us your Bud Light.
I don't think Wesley Willows wants me to give my opinion. All the Wesley Willows staff is like scared now. I'm gonna move over here so the camera's not on. Infrastructure, no, I don't think that will have a huge impact. So you're talking, we do a 1% infrastructure tax, most important thing that we do as a community by far. So we get roughly about $20 million a year for that. I will say, I think we did some really smart things in 2017 and 2018. We put a lot more money towards planning and a lot more money towards engineering because we heard at the time, I mean, if you recall, then President Trump had Infrastructure Week, which didn't pan out, but then you had President Biden do the infrastructure bill, then you also had Governor Pritzker pushing the infrastructure bill, and so we knew something was coming from state and or federal. Then we got really lucky, both came. And so we were really shovel ready for many of these projects. So I mean, you think just this summer we're doing $72 million worth of road work. We only bring in $20 million a year, so a lot of it is coming from state and federal grants that our team has been able to get. Yes, sir.
I took a walk down in the river district.
Yeah.
My gosh, is that area jumping?
It is.
I ended up getting a free cup of coffee at Starbucks.
How did you do that?
I started out at the library.
Yeah. Want me to touch on a couple of things going on down there? Want me to touch on a couple of things going on? Okay, so question was, or a statement, had an opportunity to take a walk down in the River District and said it was really jumping. Also got a free cup of coffee at Starbucks, which I don't know how that happened. I fall in line more of it's more like $5. All right, there is a lot going on downtown. Okay, so if you haven't had an opportunity, you gotta go to the library. It is absolutely magnificent. Really, I mean, I never envisioned the day that my kids on a Saturday would say, instead of Discovery Center, they want to go to the library. I'm like, okay, that's not me. They must get that from Sarah. Library is fantastic. We've also invested more than $20 million into the BMO Center. And they've done a great job inside if you have not been recently. All new seating, new scoreboards, new lighting, new sound, new areas for concessions. They've improved all of the back-end rooms of offices and green rooms for talent, which has allowed us to get better talent and more diverse talent. And we still need to get more diverse talent, but they're doing a great job. They actually had their best year last year. Also Coronado we're investing millions in. We actually have a capital improvement plan that we've worked with Friends of Coronado and the company that oversees it to develop a capital improvement plan. They had their best 2 years, the last 2 years. You have about 1,200 new residential units in downtown Rockford. And so you're talking the Burnham Lofts, which used to be the Trust Building, they call it the Burnham Lofts. You have the Talcott Building, which is almost now all residential. There's a couple of offices in there. Soon, the building, I call it the Tuitt Building, the Tuitt Law Building. It's now called New State. They're making all mid-century lofts in that building as well. You have 301 South Main Street, which is first new residential construction on the west side of downtown, and I don't know how long. You have a business on the first floor and residential upstairs. Almost every building has been redeveloped, and the ones that we own, which is important since we all pay for them. One is the Truck Building, so if you're facing what used to be Octane, now it's 27 Aluna. Right to the right of it, that vacant building for the last decade, we have that under a development agreement. Then you look at the Chick Hotel, the oldest pre-Civil War building on the west side downtown. That just has a new development agreement that'll have a restaurant on the first floor, residential up above. We also own the Watch Factory, which is a building in the center of the parking lot for the UW Sports Factory. That's underneath a development agreement. That'll be 100% residential. And then we also own the Armory. And we just did an agreement with the Rockford Area Arts Council, Urban Equity Properties in Gorman to turn that into a cultural center, arts and cultural center, that will also have a couple of apartments in there to help with the revenue and operating expenses of that. There is a lot going on, and the one thing I didn't mention is Davis Park. This is something I'm super excited about. Starting this summer, it'll be totally reconstructed. So we've taken down the fence, we've taken down the building in the center of it, we've added boat docks to it. You're gonna see a new path system throughout Davis Park. You're gonna see a destination level playground that's accessible for all ability levels. You are gonna see a new 3,000 lawn seating area with a new stage. You are gonna see new concession area, new restrooms, so you won't feel like you're going into a crypt to go to the restroom. You will also, on the far south side, on the other side of the railroad tracks, you will see a skate park, which has long been wanted down there. So our goal is, and my goal is, make sure it's the most activated, welcoming park that we have. And so I'm really, and you'll also see public sculptures and art throughout the park as well. So it's our greatest asset. It's the only park we own. We have to make sure it's well maintained and activated. Yeah.
This calls for lots of parking problems. So people going downtown, how are you going to solve that?
Okay, lots of parking problems with all the activities going on downtown. A couple of things. I'll just first touch on Davis Park. There's 2 lots to the south that we're redeveloping for, those will be surface lots. I will also say, my opinion is we have ample parking downtown. Unless you have BMO, Coronado, and something else going on at the same time. Often it is not. A handful of times each year it is. So I don't want to like poo-poo this question. It's a serious question. We allow everyone to park for free downtown for 2 hours right now. After 5 o'clock and on weekends, we don't charge for parking anywhere on the street, anywhere in our surface lots. We have highly underutilized parking decks. Highly underutilized parking decks. That costs us millions of dollars. We need to, and I don't have the answer for this right yet, drive people into those parking decks because it really is costing us millions of dollars to keep those up. I will tell you, many of the residential units that we do, we often have parking agreements with them. We also, you'll see, what's the best way to explain this? The lot, do you guys know the Brown building downtown that Amcor is in? There's a lot across the street that's fenced in. I think you will soon find that that'll be more of a public lot as well, because there's always a lot of spaces open in that lot. So we're trying to utilize the lots that we have. Some are private, and so we're trying to create agreements with them to open up additional spaces. I really don't want to do a lot more surface lots because I think there are areas that could be developed. But parking is certainly a concern. I absolutely get that. We're working as best through it as we can.
Everything you're describing is marvelous. I have a concern for those who live in the Davis Park area, definitely south of State. As far as gentrification and the increase in property taxes that could happen as the area is developed, because we have a lot of poor people in that neighborhood.
Absolutely.
What's your thinking about that?
Okay, if you didn't hear, question and concern of people, I'll say more south of portion of downtown where we're seeing a lot of development, be it Barber Coleman, be it the Water Power Lofts, 301, Embassy, that area, Davis Park. What's our thought on potential gentrification, or I'll broaden it and say pricing folks out of their own homes or businesses? Something we're really cognizant of. I will say we're not concerned yet about gentrification because none of the buildings that we're doing have anyone in them anyway. So we're not, the true definition is moving someone out of a property. I get the concept though of a broader concept of gentrification is maybe forcing them out because their values went too high, they can't afford it. So we are doing some different things there. One is we just started a program called the Corridor Improvement Program. This is more for businesses. It is for businesses, I should say. So South Main businesses, there's some fantastic businesses there that have just been really neglected by us as a city. Certainly not neglected by the residents who use them all the time, but we have not really reinvested over there. So we don't want all this new investment like, hey, thanks so much for the last 50 years, take a hike. So we created a program that said, if you want to invest in your business, we'll help cover 75% of the costs. And we've picked specific areas around our city. One is up on North Main. I mean, we have a new road, but there's still a lot of hurt going on North Main, so we did it there too. So if you want to do anything to improve your building, we want to be there to help you do that. So we allocated funds either out of our surplus funding or through tax increment financing districts on a lot of these harder hit areas, Broadway, North Main, down by South Main. I think there was 7 of them, I believe. Is that right, Laura? 7 of them. I think there were 7 districts. I don't remember them all off the top of my head. We're also, I think we need more affordable housing in that area as well. So we are working now with a developer for affordable senior housing at South Main and Harrison. We're also working for a developer, potentially, this is a little bit off meaning out a little bit, probably a year before anything's announced, at the old Keene School property off South Main. And then there could potentially be low and moderate income housing right there on Cedar Street, right across from Embassy as well. So we're trying to be as cognizant as we can, and on our side, we're trying to not increase any property taxes. So hopefully that won't impact, but it is certainly a big concern. And I think as we continue to see it, right now, current plans, I feel pretty good. But I can also see, not too distant, lots of other people want to invest over there. On my way here, I was talking to someone who wants to do a major investment in the Southwest. Yeah.
All that's really exciting, but what about North Main? You said that there's some interest in North Main. When we go down North Main, we see so many empty places. Also Northtown and the kitty corner. Anybody interested in working on those?
Yeah, great question. North Main, Northtown, kitty corner, I'll say the Highlander, I still call it Highlander, that area. We do have interest, a couple of things. So we did the infrastructure. We invested heavily into what I would call Cliff Breakers, Riverview Inn and Suites. They just opened up a new restaurant in there, a vegan restaurant. They also redid all of their conference space, and they did about 3/4 of their rooms for reinvestment. There is someone interested in the Gustafson furniture site that's vacant over there, and I think that will happen. I can't share what it is, but I think it will happen and have more activity there. Then across the street, we had 3 vacant buildings that now Fire Department Coffee owns and operates out of. If you haven't visited that spot, it's really amazing business and mission. Luke Schneider and his wife are just incredible people. You can't go and buy a cup of coffee, but you can go buy grounds and stuff to roast and gear and stuff. It's great business. For the Highlander site, that's been a pretty frustrating site for us. I will also say all of this area has the same advantages I just mentioned on South Main, that if they want to invest, we will help match those investments. That too is up to 75%. Some areas is 50, but I know North Main is 75. Alderwoman Meeks is over there and she was pushing pretty hard for 75%. The Highlander is a frustrating one to us because he's actually decent. The person who owns it is decent to talk to, and every blue moon he does some investment over there and you think he's going to start investing and then he just stops. We have had lots of issues with them recently with how they're treating their tenants. So we have our code enforcement and our legal team over there. We do not have a good option for that Highlander right now. We have shown it a whole bunch to folks. We've shown it to 2 grocers and one actually person who I would say would do light manufacturing out of it, but we have not had good traction. I will say the most promising thing in that whole area is, so we have senior mental health facility that the state so lovingly abandoned and hasn't done anything with for more than a decade. I've had direct conversations with Governor Pritzker, a lot of conversations with Deputy Governor Andy Menard. I would not be shocked if we are able to secure them taking that down and actually allowing us to put housing there. And so I was on a task force with Governor Pritzker for middle income housing throughout the state. And I think this is one area that we're gonna be able to get them to make some investments in that area. And those housing units, although not immediate, if we can get them, will help draw much more interest into that Highlander site. Yeah.
Last week, Tamir Bell commented at a meet and greet at New Zion Baptist that he had a plan for the former Schnucks from Rockland.
Okay.
For a grocery store. Can you comment on that?
Okay, so last week at League of Women Voters Forum at New Zion Missionary Baptist Church, I believe was the one, last Thursday, right? A gentleman running for 13th Ward Alderman, Tamir Bell, stated that he had some ideas or a plan for a grocery store coming in on Rockton. I'm not certain what plan he is discussing. I will tell you, I mean, we have shown that site a ton.
You didn't identify it as a grocery store, but you may know that. It is.
Oh, I'll be upfront. I don't know what Tamir was specifically mentioning or thinking. I can call him when I leave here, but I believe him. I'm not saying I don't. I just haven't heard of his plan for it. I mean, that one we have shown an incredible amount. I will be upfront. We have shown that Rockton site and the North Main Highlander probably 4 times as much as we have shown the Brynwood one on Mulford. I will also say, I don't mean this negative, we have to start patronizing local places. I had a really difficult conversation, I think it was late 2017, early 2018 with the owners of Schnucks. They're not gonna call me back, I promise you. But when they closed Rural, and then they closed Rockton, it was really frustrating. Rockton was our grocery store. Me and Sarah, that was where we went. And anytime you walked in there, it was busy. And I was like, this place has to be making money. And they're like, oh, it is. It's like, well, then what are you doing? And it wasn't making enough money. And they had a new plan for their corporation. And so it was incredibly frustrating for us. I will also say we now purchase a thing called Placer AI that, this is so big brother, but it's the truth. It doesn't track Tom's phone, it tracks a phone. And so I could tell you how many people are coming into this center on any given day, if you're coming in with a cell phone, which most people are. We have been using that as another tool in our toolkit to help attract businesses to some of these locations. Because many have corporations, they're not in Rockford. They don't know these areas. They don't know, yes, this is a great middle income neighborhood. They just say, oh, I don't want to invest over there that from New York, that doesn't look good. Well, if we can provide them data and we can show them the resources that this area has, we have a much better chance. So the last year and a half, we've shown a lot of interest in some of these sites. But I will say, they're not all gonna be filled with grocery stores or big box stores. Big box stores are of yesterday, in my opinion. We have to get creative of what we're gonna do with some of these locations. Yeah.
Someone had said at the time when the hospital quit being the hospital, that affected the grocery store. Are there any plans for redeveloping Rockford Memorial so it's really a hospital?
So the question was, there was discussions of there were some discussions of when the hospital stopped being a hospital. That's like the nicest way to put it. You can just say it, when Javon lied and moved to hospital. When that took place, that harmed the grocery store. It did, but that was not the reason why the grocery store closed. And are there any thoughts of bringing back medical to that facility? Yes and no. So we have talked about senior living in that facility with a couple of folks who have some significant interest in it. We have also talked about some form of wellness and mental health facility in that area with a conglomeration of local entities that could potentially take it over. I say those things about Javon, I'll be upfront. I mean them, but I will also say I've learned a lot since that happened. One, I learned I was probably a little too angry or immature, and just every time I talked about it, I'd say Mercy and not Javon. There are many amazing people who work for Mercy that do phenomenal work, and I shouldn't group them all in with their CEO. I will also say I've worked really hard to develop some relationships within Mercy. So, I mean, Dr. Dorsey to me is one of the nicest people around, and we have a great relationship, free-flowing information. I'm blanking on her name, Carrie, I believe, or Carly. Their chief nursing officer is phenomenal, have a good relationship. Their chief financial officer, really building that relationship. So we are now back to having open discussions and getting them to think beyond just holding on to that facility. So I will say I'm very optimistic over the last probably 6 to 10 months. We've really broken through. We've had a lot of in-person meetings, a lot of discussions. They have shown that. I've brought them 2 or 3 folks. They have shown it. They've even reached out to me saying, well, what do you think about this over there? So, I mean, there's a lot more dialogue taking place when before it was just silence. And probably, truthfully, I'll be upfront, some of it was just me. I was just so angry that I couldn't see past my anger.
Just as a follow-up, is there any interest, Swedes opened the one center on the side of town. OSF has avoided being on the side of town for the most part. Is there any interest from the other 2 large systems here for providing, because it's very difficult for a lot of us who don't have good transportation to access medical care in Rockford. Do any of the other systems, or is it still that this is what we're doing and that's what we're doing type idea?
So I don't have all their answers for you, but I will tell you, I mean, you're correct. Swedish American has opened up a clinic on North Main. They've opened up a clinic on Marcassano. OSF, the furthest they've come is Parkview. Crusader rebuilt their clinic and administration building on West State. We have had discussions. I have not specifically with OSF. Certainly with Swedish American, they've been engaged in quite a few discussions of providing access to healthcare on the west side, I think is the best way I can put it. Many discussions. I mean, they are really landlocked at their main headquarters on State and Charles. They also are seeing a tremendous amount more traffic to their emergency room and to all of their other areas. Travis Anderson, their CEO, lives on the west side, and he is, I found him to be very good. I mean, he's a smart guy, he's numbers driven, but he's numbers driven also not just pure profit driven. Like, he knows where his patients are coming from and where he sees some gaps in services. I would say Travis has interest in the west side of further expansion. I don't know if he has a plan right now, but we've had lots of discussions over it.
You mentioned the use of AI within your administration.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
exactly what information are you receiving that involves us?
I cannot tell you. No, I'm joking. Super serious question, brings up AI and the use of it. The only thing that we are doing right now is tracking cell phone data, not data like, we don't know who it is, we don't know anything that's on their phone. We just know that they have a cell phone and they are going into different locations. And we strictly use that information for two things: traffic in areas, either pedestrian, cycling, and vehicle, and we use it for economic development to see if we can say, hey, we know that, when Aldi closed their Auburn Street location and wanted to open up their Riverside location, I'll be honest, you could see that Auburn location had a dramatic dip in who was using it over the 2 years prior. And so I'll be upfront, like if I was Aldi, I could see that there was a significant drop, and then that Walmart was seeing so much more traffic, people stopped going to Aldi. You can make cases like, well, they stopped investing in it, maybe that's why they stopped going. But we are using that data strictly for saying, hey, we know 34,000 people are coming to this intersection every single day. This would be a great place for you to land a grocery store development X, A, B, or C. But that's the only thing we're using it for right now.
Thank you.
Yeah. One thing I want to touch on and take any other questions that you have, well, two things. Education. We're not solely in charge of education, obviously. We do have a school board, we do have a superintendent, but we can have some influence. So two things I wanted to touch on, or three things in education. One is there will be a new Excel Center opening up, and that Excel Center is the first in the state of Illinois, first obviously then in Rockford. And Excel Center is a partnership with Goodwill that they will be providing state accredited high school diplomas. They will also be helping reduce some barriers to get that. Their number one barrier for folks to get their GED or high school diploma is childcare. They'll be providing free childcare. They also have a partnership with Workforce Connection, so when you go and get that high school diploma, your kid is in childcare, you'll also be getting workplace placement assistance. I'm really excited about that because any study you've looked at over the last decade and a half shows 25 to 40,000 people in Winnebago County don't have a GED or high school diploma. They're going to start eating into that really quick. Year one, they want to have 150 graduates. They're going to open in 2025. Year two and beyond, they want to have 300 graduates each year. So they will start eating into that. And there's a whole host of other great groups doing GED programs or high school online programs I don't want to take away from, but this will be the most significant number of graduates that we see in one time. Second thing is Rockford Promise. We've talked a lot about that here. Quick update. Live in Rockford, go to Rockford Public Schools, earn a 3.0 GPA, you can go to Northern Illinois University tuition free. We have 400 kids on their campus, 70% are first generation college going, 60% are black and brown young children going to college. Our kids, by the way, are outperforming general admission NIU students by 0.2 on their GPA. They're averaging a 3.2. I will also say at Rockford Public Schools, those kids in high school have seen a 6% increase in number of kids earning a 3.0 GPA. So you raise the bar, they usually go up. Other thing is, this year we expanded Rockford Promise. We included Rockford University. I think we're really fortunate to have Rockford University. I think we need a really thriving and strong Rockford University to have a strong community. So anyone who is MAP and Pell eligible, so low and moderate income individuals who go to public or private schools, can go to Rockford University tuition free. They are, is the application deadline done? Is it March 1st? It's February 1st or March 1st. Okay. February 1st? February 1st is Community Foundation of Northern Illinois Scholarships. We'll figure out when the promise are, but they've been accepting applications now for several weeks. Anyone that you know that has any high school student, specifically those seniors, get them to apply. It's a 1.5-page application. Literally, if you meet these things, you're guaranteed entrance into Northern Illinois or Rockford University. It's a guarantee. And you're guaranteed to have it paid for 4 years. Other thing is there's lots of folks who either have their GED or high school diploma or don't want it, or they have their high school diploma and are going off to college. There's a lot of people who don't want to go off to college, and you can make a really wonderful living right here in Rockford not doing that as well. So we have partnered with Pastor Albert Tank Weathers, who also owns a concrete company. So he's providing mentorship and leadership training and training folks in the art of concrete work. We have laid more than 2 miles of sidewalk in our community each summer over the last 3 years. A fun thing, I had an event maybe 2 Thursdays ago, and I got to see the first student to go in it. His name's Sylvester. Sylvester had a troubled past and just changed his life around. He participated in this program, literally the first student allowed in this program. July, he becomes a journeyman concrete worker. He will be making, and I told him to remember small people like me, he will be making $49 an hour, and that does not include his pension or benefits, starting in July. He's 25, and he did not go to college. And he had some storied past, is probably the best way I can put it. But they love him, and that program's going very well. Auburn and Maine, the Think Big Women and Minority Small Business Incubator will be opening in the next 30 days, so that's also very exciting. Last thing I'll touch on is violent crime. We're down from 2017 through 2024, more than 35% in violent crime. We're down more than 29% in property crime. If you look at just 2024 stats, we had half the homicides in 2024 that we did in 2020. We also had 30% less shots fired in our community in 2024 than we did in 2023. We are making progress. There's not a metric that you can show me that we are not making progress in when it comes to violent crime. I really believe it's a dual track approach that we're taking. We're investing heavily in the enforcement side. I'm a firm believer if you commit a violent crime in the city of Rockford, you have to be caught, you have to be held accountable. I hope that the judges and state's attorney will hold you accountable, but we will catch you. The other side is we have to provide more hope and opportunities to these young people so that we can stop this cycle. And so we've invested in, partnered, or created more than 25 programs, literally starting at 0 to 3 years old, all the way through someone who's returning to our community who may have committed a violent crime and helping them get back on their feet. I think we have to do all of this, not choose one side or another, and I keep saying it, but I really think we also have to have the courage to keep doing it. It's working, the data shows us it's working, regardless of what the fool on Rockford Scanner says, it's working. And I will say, we have to have the courage because we historically have done a lot of amazing things for a year or 2 or 3, and then we stop doing certain things. And so we need to keep pushing that because it really is working. And the last thing I'll say, you never know what's going to happen in April, and I'm not getting political on you, but I will just say, I think we've made a lot of progress in our community. Wasn't all that long ago we were ranked the most miserable. It wasn't all that long ago we were ranked the murder capital. It wasn't all that long ago that we were ranked the underwater mortgage capital of the United States. All of those things are drastically different. We've seen 35% reductions in violent crime. We were just recently named the #1 area to live in Illinois, and we were recently named the hottest housing market in the nation. I think we are making progress. We have a long way to go, but really appreciate the opportunity you've given me to be mayor. I hope I keep doing that, but if I'm not, I've really enjoyed it, and I won't be here every quarter, but I'll come back. Is there any questions that you have about any other? I'll go here and I'll come back there. Yeah.
I just want to thank you for coming.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Your knowledge is amazing.
I have a lot of sheets, and I have amazing people like Laura that help me. Yeah.
You talk about amazing things. I was hoping you might come today in that red suit.
You're not supposed to know that.
I thought you looked very good on the stage.
So,
Explain what that's about.
oh, okay. I will explain what that's about. So I went to the Rockford Symphony Orchestra, and I had an opportunity to participate for my second year in the Holiday Pops. Good news is this year they didn't have me play any instruments. I am not talented at all. But we have someone on our city team named Laura, whose husband is a band teacher, and every year he obviously does many holiday performances, and he must have like an entire room in the house filled of amazing suits. And this suit is really a suit like this that looks like Santa, and so I got to wear that on stage. So I'm just happy to show a video to everyone. Any other questions?
Yeah, you had promised that we get to give these two ladies a hard time. When is that going to happen?
Yeah. I'm up for it anytime, yes.
Has there been an influx of illegals
Okay.
in Chicago maybe?
Yep. So good question. Has there been an influx of illegal immigrants in our community? I'll just change it a little bit and just say undocumented folks in our community. I will say no. There has not been an influx. Have we received some? Yes. I would say, I mean, the hardest number I have is probably 8 months old, and it was 36. And that is the majority of them were children and younger adults. That came via Texas to Chicago, and then Texas to New York, and some of those ended up coming here and getting services from, I believe, YWCA and a couple of other nonprofits. We have not had an influx at all. I don't also foresee us having one. I will tell you, not the question that you asked, but I think part of in the same area. There's obviously been a pretty different approach to immigration in the last 4 weeks. I will say ICE will be in Rockford. We're not certain of the date or time, but we are certain they will be here. Our standpoint, just so you're up front, or you know what our standpoint is we do not participate in any raids with ICE. My feeling is a lot of things. One, we have a federal government that gets paid to do that work and not us. Two, probably more importantly for us locally, is we don't want to participate in that work for a lot of reasons. The biggest reason is trust. We have enough difficulty building trust between our community and our police department, and the idea that now a large group in any community would not feel comfortable calling in a crime or calling in for service for fear that either, and most often it's not fear for themselves, it's fear for a long lost cousin who lives somewhere, and just the idea that they're going to be swept up in the system. I want everyone to be able to call in a crime so that we can get to the victim and catch the criminal. Only time that we would ever, that we'll participate in any form of that is if there is a violent offender that we are aware of and we know their specific locations. We would communicate that, but that is, in Rockford, that's pretty far and few between. Yeah.
Can you speak then to how our schools will manage any potential encounters? And also, I'm aware that the sheriff does not seem to share some of these views, and will that create conflict?
Let's go back to talking about the Santa suit. Okay, really wonderful questions. One was, am I aware of how Rockford Public Schools will handle any ICE enforcement? And will there be potential conflict with maybe the sheriff's stance compared to City of Rockford's stance? Okay, schools, I can answer this. I was just asked this last week at an event, and so I didn't have a great answer for it, so I talked to Dr. Jarrett. He responded pretty quickly and unequivocally, they will not allow ICE in their buildings. Second is from the standpoint of Sheriff Caruana. I read his statement. I mean, you can certainly gather from his statement what he believes or would like to do, but the law in Illinois is pretty clear. We have the law called the Trust Act that local law enforcement agencies, being cities and counties, are not able to participate with ICE in raids. How that comes to be when folks actually come here and start asking questions is something we will certainly monitor. And I don't want to like openly knock anyone, but even when we were going through COVID and other items, some enforcement agencies chose to follow laws and some decided which laws they wanted to follow. We will certainly monitor it, and we will certainly do everything that we have in our power to manage through that situation. Yeah.
You've talked quite a bit about what you're doing with high school and college. What about preschool?
Yeah.
Is there any effort in that area?
What a great question. The question was, talked a lot about high school and college. Is there any efforts in preschool area? Absolutely. So we run the largest federally funded early childhood education program called Head Start. We have Early Head Start, which is 0 to 3, and then we have Head Start, which is 4 and 5-year-olds. So we have nearly 700 families, and the neat thing about Head Start, if you're not real familiar with it, so when my kids went to preschool, we had great teachers who really helped them, and then they'd come home, and it was Sarah and I'll be honest, mainly Sarah because she's smarter than me, who helped our kids. Head Start does an entire family and provides wraparound services for the entire family. They're low-income families in Rockford, and we do everything from helping make sure that the kids are getting to dentist appointments, medical appointments, the families getting to medical appointments, if they need transportation, housing assistance, whatever it is, we are wrapping our arms around the entire family. Other thing is I'm on the governing board of Alignment Rockford that has made early childhood education their #1 priority. So, and there's a lot of different initiatives. One initiative is United Way has partnered with medical providers in our community, and when a child is born, they should be going to 14 wellness visits from day 0 to age 5, I believe. And at every one of those wellness visits, they're partnering with physicians to actually provide those families a new book every single time, and actually providing them their medical care through talking about that book. So just encouraging literacy at a very young age. Also, we are going to begin, we just won a grant, our community did, to actually send a nurse out to every single newborn's house in Winnebago County to help with their medical as well as their development. There's lots of discussions on the Rockford Public School side. I mean, a big issue, in my opinion, I'm not the superintendent, we're on the school board, but a big issue we have, like me and Sarah, blessed, I would say. Well, I have a lot of privileges folks don't have. A big privilege we have is, Sarah runs a retail shop on Mayor. If I have to, I can leave and go pick up kids at odd times. Sarah could close her shop and do that. A lot of families don't have that ability. We ran into issues, even being blessed, that early childhood education in Rockford Public Schools is really difficult. It gets out at 11 a.m. Well, who the heck can go pick up their kid at 11 a.m.? So they are working right now to include all-day options for early childhood education, not just for low income, but for everyone in our community to have more options. But there is significant efforts as well as data gathering and monitoring of these efforts to find out if they're going to work. And you guys should have Alignment Rockford here. They'll say it much more articulately and a lot more detail. Yes?
There was some conversation a couple of years ago about putting in an intersection at Spring Creek and 990. Is that gonna happen?
A couple of years ago, there was discussion about an intersection at Spring Creek and I-90. We have heard nothing about that new coming in. We have not heard anything new on that. He hopes they don't.
I was just wondering if, based on the questions and talk about hospitals, does the city have a relationship with Oak Street Health? And I bring that up because they're near East Side, the state Madison, and they're national, and they also provide transportation. So,
Correct. Yes, so question was, do we have a relationship with Oak Street Health? They also provide transportation, he stated, as well as their near west side at State and Madison. We have a relationship with them. I meet with them probably once a year. A relationship enough to, it's not the same as I have with, let's say, Travis at Swedes, that I can say, hey, I want you over here. It's a great idea, though. I should do that. One thing I did want to tell you, Oak Street. One thing I did want to tell you is, and I'm sure you're all aware of this, but I asked for it before I got here so I could provide it to you. So you guys have a unique thing right now. Before you were all represented, my understanding is by one alder person, which was Alderman Rose. Now you have two alder camps coming in. So if you're not aware, this side of Rockton, you will be voting on either now or on February 25th for a primary between Dawn Granite, who is a candidate for alderman, and Alderman Bill Rose, who is the incumbent. Both are Democrats running and have their election on February 25th. On the other side of Rockton, if you live on the other side of Rockton, you have a candidate race as well. You have incumbent Gina Meeks versus candidate Carrie Crosby. That again, there is no general election, so that primary decides who is that alder person. I will say, you can look at it both ways, like, hey, you're not all represented by one, or you can look at it the other way by saying, hey, if you guys have a big issue, now you have two folks that can advocate for you on council floor. Yeah.
Does everybody in Wesley Willows go to the same place across the street, or has that changed? Because the location of the development changed.
Great question. Does everyone in Wesley Willows vote at the same location, or has that changed? I am not certain, but I am certain we will have an answer to Wesley Willows staff today. Can you write that one down? Yeah, I am sorry. I believe the locations had nothing to do with the maps, the voting locations, separate groups. So you had Board of Elections who picks where those locations are, and you had City Council pick the map. So my gut tells me it's the exact same. Did anyone know an address over there on Wesley Willows? 4141? Maybe go to Board of Elections website, 4141 North Rockton. Any other questions? Yeah. In the 12th ward, are they both Democrats? Yes. So Carrie Crosby and Gina Meeks are both Democrats.
I got a name from both of them.
Yep.
Meeks, the present alderman, was a positive and hopeful. The one from Crosby was negative. She took all of her advertising money to smear her opponent. I thought that was inappropriate at the local level.
Yeah. So, statement was, got two mailers. one from Meeks was positive, hopeful, one was Crosby, negative. Yeah, I will tell you, I mean, you're gonna see that in all the alderman races. I'll also be up front. You're gonna see a lot of negative in my races, my guess too. Any last question? Yeah,
There's another event following this.
I'm getting kicked out. All right, any last question? I'm gonna leave a couple of cards up here. Yes. No.
Gary, I was waiting for you to do this.
We really like you and we love that you come out here and talk to us. We hate our garbage totes.
Okay. So that's Laura's fault. No, I'm joking. That was us giving you a hard time, right? No, that is not Laura's fault. So raise your hand if you're aware that you can get a smaller tote. All right, one of you are. So you couldn't at the beginning. I even told you that you couldn't at the beginning. And then a lot of you called. Darn democracy in action. So you can. Right now you have two totes, right? You have a larger 90, 95.
Enough to put two bodies in.
Right.
I was born in Chicago.
I got a 3-body trunk. Then you can. So I want to take that back. Then you cannot get a smaller one. So you have, your recycling is the same size as your garbage. Okay. Then, yes, sir.
A couple of people have gotten the smaller ones.
Do you pay for it?
I did not get it. I don't care. Somebody else has gotten the smaller one.
Okay. So I'll be up front. We have, I think it's, Laura said 54,000 garbage counts. So what we have done is said, and I think you guys actually got the special ones at the beginning, which was the same size recycling and garbage. Many people got the recycling that you got in a much larger garbage. And so we have provided anyone who's 65 and older, I believe, the opportunity to turn in their large garbage can and get the same size recycling. I was just told that you could purchase a smaller one, and some people have at Menards or Walmart or any of those places. We can't provide that because, truthfully, we just can't keep up or track where all these are going, just being honest with you. Thanks for letting us end on high. All right, really appreciate that. I'll leave some cards up here. If you have any questions or concerns, please, we want to hear from you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.